Hey everybody, it's Charlie. Kevin Feige just did a new interview about Avengers 4 and Captain Marvel. We learned about her new origin story in the MCU, so we'll break everything down. If you're finding me for the first time, be sure to subscribe to get all the Comic-Con videos. There's new giveaway stuff I'll explain at the end of the video. The biggest thing first, Kevin Feige talking about the definitive ending to this sort of 10-year block of films. It'll be 22 films after Avengers 4. So I'm quoting him when someone asked him if the changes we see to the characters in the universe that happened during Infinity War and Avengers 4 are gonna stick. He said, and I'm quoting him, "I would say almost all of them are permanent changes, meaning they will roll some things back. Like we know that Black Panther's coming back, we know that Spider-Man's coming back. We pull examples from comics all the time. I would say in the comics, sometimes characters come back to life the next day, and sometimes characters that they swore would never come back, like Bucky Barnes, will never come back to life, come back and it's awesome, like in Winter Soldier." He's saying that they did that when the comic books came out, but they didn't actually say that when they killed Bucky off, or supposedly killed him off during the first Captain America movie. He's a little bit smarter about the way he seeds story ideas that they can grow into really big movies later on if they want to. He then goes on to say, this is actually interesting, "I don't know what's going to happen in 5 years or 10 years, but in terms of the more immediate future that we're building and creating right now, they will be finite," meaning that some of the characters they kill off, the big characters, will stay dead after Avengers 4, and they probably won't bring back, and new characters will come in and take the mantle. I know people are starting to get worried about Captain America now. Don't worry, he actually goes on and talks more about this. He does confirm that Avengers 4 is tonally very different from Infinity War. Infinity War was mostly them being 10 steps behind at every turn and getting their asses handed to them, and it's just really depressing ending, like we weren't prepared, we weren't a team, Thanos was victorious, half of all life was destroyed, whether or not you think that Thanos was right. When he says he doesn't know what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years, that's because a little while ago he did another interview where he said that they have the solid next 4 years mapped out with the movies that they're going to be making. Now that doesn't assume any changes that they make to that roster once the X-Men come in, because recently Comcast backed off and they still have to pass the Justice Department tests, like they still have to go through the government to approve this big buyout that's happening with Disney and Fox. But assuming that that all goes well, they might change some of the movies later in that schedule. I've already done a couple videos about that. I'll link one of them at the end of this. There's so much that we can talk about for Phase 4, but Feige goes on to talk about the ending of Avengers 4, the way they leave things, and how they're going to continue with the future movies in the next 10 years to thread everything back to these beginnings. So he says, yes, it's a world I hope continues into the far future the same way all these storylines have continued in the comics. But storylines can come to an end. The best stories do come to an end. Return of the Jedi, which he cites, was an ending for a long time, and as a 10-year-old in 1983, he's talking about himself. Kevin Feige was 10 years old when he saw Return of the Jedi. He said, that ending carried me through 30 plus years until there was a sequel. He was talking about Force Awakens. That hasn't happened before in the superhero genre. He says one of the reasons why they don't get that really definitive ending like Return of the Jedi was for the Star Wars franchise for a long time was because a new actor comes in and a new storyline starts right away, pointing at Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and Tom Holland. 2 separate reboots within the span of 10 years as opposed to Star Wars' 30 plus years gap. So he's saying that they did want to give a definitive ending to these characters with Avengers 4. He goes on to say, this is actually really important, the universe, the world, many of the characters we've introduced will continue onward in unexpected ways. He's already confirmed what some of those unexpected ways are. But he does say that some of the pre-existing characters, the Phase 1 Avengers, he doesn't totally have plans for going forward. He just knows that they'll continue. They don't have definitive movie ideas yet. I'll explain which is which, the movies that he has confirmed and the characters that he knows are coming back, but he doesn't know what their movies are going to be. Then he goes on to talk about the Captain Marvel movie and her new origin story. I'll explain that in a second, but just to clear up that Avengers 4 stuff. So the characters that he said are coming back, definitely Black Widow, definitely Thor. We know that they're going to do movies for both those people. Iron Man is implied to be coming back. I've already done a video about deleted scenes. There was a deleted scene where Happy and they were talking about the wedding that they were planning on having in that scene before Doctor Strange showed up. So I think that's backdoor confirmation that their story ends in Avengers 4 with that Tony Pepper wedding. And that's one of the big events that brings all the Marvel characters together. Like he invites everybody, including Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne. Then some of the characters that he's not totally sure about are some of the B characters, like Falcon will probably come back, but we don't know where he's going to pop up. But people like Captain America's mantle will come back, but he's not totally sure what they're going to do with the Captain America character, if they're going to recast it or if they're just going to put him on a shelf for a while and then recast way down the road. When we're talking about real endings, though, it's not like these characters are all going to die. He's just going to have them take a back seat in the drama that's revolved around them the last couple of movies, like all the stuff in Civil War, Tony being pissed off about the death of his parents. That'll all be tabled for the drama that the new characters will bring in, like Captain Marvel and now the Spider-Man character. Future big Avengers team-ups in like the big phase stories that build towards whatever big Secret War story we get down the road will revolve around the consequences of the stuff that these new characters do. So that means that Tony Stark can still come in and help out every once in a while, but as like a main character, you're probably not going to see a whole lot of Robert Downey Jr. after this. He'll just pop up every once in a while, quip, help people with a problem, then go away. Like about as much of him as you saw during Spider-Man Homecoming. Just there to help out, but it's really Spider-Man's film. Moving into Captain Marvel territory, so Kevin Feige confirmed that they were going into the 90s because it was untouched and they wanted to tell a story when Nick Fury didn't know about all this crazy alien space war stuff that was going on. He specifically name-dropped Kree-Skrull War, so we confirmed that that would be the big conflict that was the backdrop for the movie that served as the reason for Mar-Vell coming to planet Earth. But the writers said a couple months ago that they would be doing a new backstory for Carol Danvers without completely changing her original comic book origin story. So if you haven't read it, there was a brand new comic called The Life of Captain Marvel that was released just today that sort of details some of her new origin story. Now, it's not the entire story, but it deals more with her childhood trauma experienced at the hands of her father, like she lived in kind of a broken home. So if you're not familiar with the character, she's one of the alcoholic Avengers. She and Tony Stark accidentally bump into each other in AA meetings every once in a while, like, oh god, I didn't know this was the meeting that you were coming to. They make a couple jokes about that, but Carol reconnects with her family and she starts to find things that her father had left behind. He's dead in present day. She learns that he'd been having an affair with someone, we don't know with who, but then she finds a Kree device that sets off a beacon, setting off a chain of events that leads to this Kree baby that's gestating in space to make its way back to planet Earth, referencing her father, implying that her father was involved with the Kree a long time before Mar-Vell ever came to planet Earth and she got into the accident with Yon-Rogg in the Psyche Magnetron, getting her powers. Part of me is wondering if they're trying to imply that her father was part Kree or a Kree sleeper agent, or he fell in love with the Kree and they have a Kree child and that's what's coming to planet Earth, or if Captain Marvel herself is part Kree because of the DNA passed on from her father. The way she gets her powers is actually by being infused with Mar-Vell's Kree DNA. So he's this Kree super person with crazy cosmic powers. She gets part of his DNA. That gives her crazy cosmic powers. Now they're kind of implying that she might have Kree DNA that was already a part of her, or her father had some relationship with someone from the Kree Empire, and that's what precipitated the events that led to her getting powers. So it's not so much just a random occurrence, and they're trying to give her a more complex backstory, but they'll flesh that out through this comic book series. So just be on the lookout for new Marvel stuff this week. They're not at Comic-Con for Big Hall H panel, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to see movie stuff. We just found out about Sinister Six and Spider-Man Far From Home. So all kinds of brand new stuff is dropping all the time, no worries. As long as you have alerts enabled for my channel, you'll see all the videos. There's a new round of that Infinity War Blu-ray giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on the video. So click here to learn all about Sinister Six in Spider-Man Far From Home, and click here to watch Tom Holland give away some of the plot of Avengers 4. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.